Hello, friends, and welcome back to Market Shares. I'm your host, Tony Blodgett, and today I thought I would just share with you in this hopefully fairly quick episode just 5 things that I've learned from being involved in coaching over the years. Now, these aren't necessarily things that I learned in a coaching session, although a couple of them might be, but really just, the things that I've learned about being involved in coaching for the last, 25 years. Many of you know the story when I first got in the mortgage business. About 60 days after I started, I found myself at a Todd Duncan sales mastery event, and I was like literally 60, 90 days in the mortgage business. And although that isn't coaching, I still consider going to seminars, conferences, mastermind events, things of that nature to really be in the same category as coaching, right? It's just coaching one to many as opposed to coaching one-on-one. So this has been a part of my career from day one. I've constantly been learning from others who have kind of, forged the path ahead of me. And one thing I learned, I think I learned it at that very first sales mastery event, is that there is no reason to try and reinvent the mortgage and real estate industry. It's already been done successfully by many, many people. And all you have to do is really find those people who resonate with you that have had a lot of success in this industry or maybe your chosen industry of choice, and just do what it is that they have already done. And that to me is a lot what coaching and going to conferences is really all about. And so no need to reinvent the wheel. It's already been invented. Just, follow along with those that have done it well. Now, I will say that we're in an industry, that being mortgage and real estate, that is, evolving. There's no question about that. And we do need to evolve with the times. And so that's why some of my topics here are going to talk to you about, how to maybe make a pivot from what you have been doing to something different. But we'll get to that in a minute. So again, top 5 list. We're just going to quickly go through it, and hopefully this helps you a little bit, either really identify if coaching is right for you, or maybe helps you, maybe there's just some things you can take away from this. So the very first one that I would mention is I've learned that you have to be open to being coachable. Now that sounds pretty basic on the face of it, but I'll be honest with you, the first couple times that I hired a coach, it wasn't that great of an experience for me. And what I realized over time is I was the problem. I thought that I had all the great ideas. I was very young, obviously, and maybe that hasn't changed significantly, but, I thought that I had all the right ideas. And so I wasn't really open to being coachable as much as, I opened my checkbook and I wrote a check and I made the phone call and I signed the contract. And, so I took all the right steps, if you will, but mentally I wasn't ready to really take on someone else's advice and change the way that I had been doing things. So the number one thing I would say is you have to be open to being coachable. And this doesn't just apply, in my opinion, to hiring a professional coach. I think, a good practice to embody is being open to other people's ideas. And if we want to relate that specifically to business, being open to ideas of people who have had more success than you have had. Chances are their ideas, their strategies are things that you should, at least, if nothing else, consider and listen to and be open-minded. So the number one thing that I've learned is you got to be open to being coachable. That's the first step. And it's not an easy one. I don't want to kid you. For me, it was very difficult. Took years to where I felt like I was really open to being coachable. The second thing that I have learned is a little bit more tactical, which is time is your most valuable asset. And I don't think I've been through a coaching program that doesn't talk at some point about your time. I talk about it on this podcast quite a bit. I did a whole episode talking about, your time and efficiency and time blocking and calendar management and all of those things. So there is a book I want to recommend here, and that is Todd Duncan's Time Traps. I think it's a great book for people in the real estate industry. So check out Time Traps. Really good book about time. But look, time is one of those things that you only get a finite amount of time in each given day. And one of the best exercises that I ever did in a coaching program was to write down what I'm doing in 15-minute increments. If you've done this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's very difficult to do, but it's also very eye-opening as to how it is that we are spending our time, especially people who are newer to our industry or people that are not doing a lot of transactions but feel like they're busy all the time. My question is, busy doing what? Well, you feel like you're busy, and until you write down what you're doing every 15 minutes, you're probably not going to know, or you're going to tell yourself stories in your head as to why it is the things you're doing are super important. And I would argue that they may not be. So time is your most valuable asset. Spend it wisely, and you're never going to get a second, a minute, an hour, or a day back once it's gone. So keep that in mind. Number 3, be part of a community. You know, for me, this has been a huge part of, my career, is because of the events that I would go to, because of the coaching programs that I was in, they came with a community around them. And so for me, I found it almost like the community became more important to me than the actual coaching that came with it. Now, coaching's always been super important, and there's times, there's certain weeks, there's certain months where things are going on, and having the ability to sit down one-on-one with a coach is invaluable. But what I find, if I look back at some of the larger experiences or times that I was in a program, it was the community that came of that was of the most value to me, and what still, continues, the relationships I have from some of those communities still continue today. And you've seen some of those guests on the podcast here at Market Shares. So the other thing that I would say is, outside of coaching as it relates to community, is, be a part of masterminds. One of the very first large conferences I went to, when we got back, there was a bunch of us that went to the conference, but when we got back, we started a small mastermind, or what you might call an accountability group, from that event. So what we took from this large industry-wide event became now this smaller community. It was actually just within our organization, and I've done that a few different times. I went to a big event, and 3 or 4 or 5 of us would start, an accountability group. For a couple of years, it was just me and one other guy that went to an event, and we said, hey, we're going to start meeting once a week to talk about our business and hold each other accountable. So there's ways of taking things from larger coaching events or larger events, and then drawing community from that, creating your own kind of community. You can also do this, though, within your organization, right? You can, maybe you're in a branch at a real estate company or a mortgage company that has really great synergy, or be part of bringing that synergy together for your branch if you don't currently have that, or create a mastermind group against, with your peers, maybe at other branches, other locations where you guys all get together. Maybe you get together virtually with the advent of, Teams and Zoom and all the easy ways to collaborate. There's some cool things you can do there. So one of the main reasons to get into coaching, in my opinion, depending on the program, is the community that comes along with it. And for me, that's the number 3 thing, is being a part of that community and the things you'll learn, the relationships that will grow as part of that community. Number 4 is, I've learned to invest in myself. Okay, this is super important. A lot of people, a lot of companies might provide coaching, or people will be like, well, I would sign up for coaching if someone paid for it for me, then I would go. But honestly, I gotta tell you that paying for yourself, I think, is super valuable, because when you're writing that check every month, you're more vested into what it is that you're doing. And so I think you need to invest in yourself when it comes to coaching. I couldn't even tell you how much money over the years I've spent just on one-on-one coaching. It's a lot. But really, on top of that, all the events and seminars and conferences that I've been to, that was a huge investment. I'm currently part of a mastermind group. That was a pretty substantial annual investment to be a part of that group. And it continues. I'm never going to stop doing those sorts of things. And look, for me in particular, I didn't go to college. For me, conferences, events, coaching, masterminds. This is my, advanced education, if you will. This is how I've learned the things that I've learned about sales and leadership and so on and so forth. And, when I was on a mission to get my CMB, my certified mortgage banker, I had to go to classes for that, invest in that. And there was mastermind groups and community that came as a result of that as well. And people I'm still in touch with, but all of this requires some investment, and it's really an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your career. And I feel like it's something that a lot of salespeople don't want to write the check to do. But if I look back at how much money I've made in this industry versus how much I've invested, you guys, it's not even close. It's a minor investment in the whole scheme of things to have the relationships I've had, the knowledge that I've gained, the skills that I've honed over the years. It's made a huge impact. So be willing to invest in yourself, in personal development and growth. I think it's hugely important. And the last thing that I'm going to say is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to change coaches. Don't be afraid to change coaching platforms. And don't be afraid to just take a break for a minute from coaching. But notice I said break. I didn't say quit, right? I've found myself in this situation before where I'm paying for coaching. Maybe I got something out of it to begin with, but for whatever reason, over time, I'm just not feeling like I'm getting a lot of value out of it. Maybe I'm even, I'm dreading having to go to my next coaching call. Look, that's a problem. You need to change that up. You need to look for something different. Maybe it's with the same organization, ask for a different coach. It's probably a good idea. Just like, we don't have people in Congress for, well, maybe we do in Congress, but we don't have the same president for lifetimes, right? So, every 4 years. So a lot of things are better when they change out every couple years. And that's not going to be for everybody. Maybe you have a coach. It's just became an integral part of who you are and how you do your business. And you're with that coach for 20 years. No problem. If it's working, that's awesome. But if it's not working, don't be afraid to change it. Certainly don't give up on coaching altogether because you're having a bad coaching experience. I would encourage you to try something different. And if the coaching isn't going well and you feel like you need to make a change, I would also revert back to the first point that I made here is it you? Are you being coachable? It may not be you, but it's a good question to ask yourself. And then, like I said, take a break maybe. Sometimes I've had times where I'm not being coached over the last 26 years. Most of the time I'm involved in one type of coaching or another, but there's certainly times where I wasn't, and that was okay too. And I was just waiting for the right timing, the right opportunity to present itself, the right coaching platform that really resonated with me, that I felt like was something I could really dive into and take seriously. So don't be afraid to take a break or change coaches or whatever you need to do there. And I would say the same thing about any sort of mastermind group or accountability group that you've either joined or organized yourself. Look, if it's not serving the purpose that it was originally intended to do, then you need to stop doing it, because otherwise it can really jade you against those being good and positive, because we know that they are, but some groups get stale, certain members come or go, and for whatever reason, it loses its impact on your life. So just, drop out of it. That's okay. Take a break, join another one in the future, get a different coach if that's what you need to do, but don't be afraid to change. Look, this is all about you and your own personal growth and development. And if it's not working for you, then change it. So you guys, quick episode. Those are my top 5 things. If you're involved in coaching or if you're not, think through those things. And if you're not involved in coaching and you never have been, I'm going to strongly encourage you to make an investment in yourself, find a good coaching platform. And if you want ideas or strategies on this, look, I'm available to give you advice. Reach out to someone who you look up to in your organization or in your industry, and just see what's out there and plug in to do something. Maybe it's an entry-level coaching opportunity. It's not a huge investment, but something that gets you part of a community, gets you committed to learning and personal development. I promise you it will make a big difference in your career. So until next time, you guys, Please continue to tune in every Friday to Market Shares. Let people know, if you would, about Market Shares if you think this is valuable content. And of course, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Take care.